Our story begins on the shimmering plains of Naboo, where golden grasses sway beneath a twilight sky streaked with purple and amber. The Theed Falls murmur in the distance, their mist catching the last rays of sunlight. In this quiet corner of the galaxy, far from the chaos of war, a boy named Anakin Skywalker kneels beside a still pool, his reflection wavering in the water. At 9 years old, his eyes carry a weight beyond his years, a glimmer of destiny that wavers between hope and fear. He is no longer a slave boy on Tatooine. Instead, Anakin has been chosen by the Force Sisters, supernatural beings of the Force who live in the Source, to be trained in their ancient ways. This is where our story takes a different turn, where the fate of the galaxy turns a different path. Anakin's journey began weeks ago, when Qui-Gon Jinn, the Jedi Master who freed him from Watto's chains, brought him not to the Jedi Temple on Coruscant, but to the mysterious planet known only as the Wellspring of Life. Qui-Gon, guided by visions of the Force, believed the Priestesses' serenity, joy, anger, confusion, and sadness could unlock Anakin's potential as the Chosen One in ways the Jedi Order could not. The Council, skeptical but respectful of Qui-Gon's intuition, allowed this unprecedented detour, though they watched from afar with unease. Now, Anakin trains under the Priestesses' guidance, learning to balance the light and dark within himself, to see the Force not as a tool, but as a living current that flows through all things. Yet, within his heart, a storm brews. He dreams of his mother, Shmi, still on Tatooine, her face etched with worry. The Priestesses teach him to embrace his emotions, but Anakin fears they will consume him, pulling him away from the destiny he feels, but cannot yet grasp. On this evening, as Anakin meditates by the lake, a familiar figure approaches through the grass. Padme Amidala, the young queen of Naboo, cloaked in a simple gown to avoid attention. She is not yet the senator of the original saga, but her presence carries the same quiet strength. Qui-Gon, lingering on Naboo to monitor Anakin's progress, has asked Padme to speak with the boy, sensing her compassion might ease his turmoil. Padme kneels beside him, her voice soft as she asks about his training. Anakin hesitates, then admits his struggle. The Priestesses urge him to feel his anger and sadness, but he fears losing control, becoming something he cannot undo. Padme listens, her own heart heavy with the burdens of leadership, and shares a story of her own doubts as queen, planting the seeds of a bond that will shape their futures. As they talk, a shadow moves in the distance, a cloaked figure watching from the cliffs, sent by an unseen hand to observe the Chosen One. The narrative shifts to the Wellspring of Life, where Anakin resumes his training under the Priestesses' watchful eyes. The planet pulses with energy, its crystalline spires glowing under a sky of endless stars. Serenity guides him through meditations, teaching him to find peace in the Force's embrace, while anger pushes him to channel his rage into precision, not chaos. Each lesson tests Anakin's resolve, forcing him to confront his longing for Shmi and his fear of failure. In one trial, he faces a vision of himself as a dark warrior, eyes glowing yellow, and recoils in horror. The Priestesses warn that the Force is a mirror, reflecting both light and shadow, and only by accepting both can he fulfill his destiny. Anakin's frustration grows, his young mind grappling with concepts that even Jedi Masters struggle to comprehend. He begins to question whether the Priestess's path is right for him, or if the Jedi's disciplined code might offer the control he craves. Meanwhile, on Coruscant, the subplot unfolds through Obi-Wan Kenobi, Qui-Gon's apprentice, who serves as the supporting character. Obi-Wan, stationed at the Jedi Temple, grows restless as he awaits news of Anakin's progress. The Council, led by Yoda and Mace Windu, debates the wisdom of entrusting the Chosen One to the enigmatic Priestesses, whose motives remain unclear. Obi-Wan, loyal to Qui-Gon but torn by his own doubts, volunteers to investigate rumors of a shadowy figure stalking Naboo, rumors that align with the cloaked watcher seen by Anakin. His journey takes him to the underlevels of Coruscant, where he uncovers whispers of a Sith plot, led by Darth Sidious, to monitor the boy's training. Obi-Wan's pursuit of this threat becomes the pulse of the subplot, intertwining with Anakin's emotional journey and setting the stage for a larger conflict. In a tense encounter, Obi-Wan clashes with a bounty hunter hired by Sidious, deflecting blaster bolts in a neon-lit alley, only to find a holodisc hinting at a plan to corrupt or destroy the Chosen One. Back on Naboo, Anakin's training intensifies as the Priestesses sense a disturbance in the Force. They send him on a solo mission to the Gungan city of Oto Gunga, deep beneath the planet's lakes, to retrieve a kyber crystal from an ancient shrine. The underwater journey tests Anakin's courage, his small frame navigating bioluminescent tunnels while evading predatory Sando Aqua monsters. As he clutches the crystal, its faint hum resonates with his heart, amplifying his emotions: joy for his freedom, grief for his mother, anger at his powerlessness. The crystal's light flickers, reflecting his inner turmoil, and Anakin nearly loses himself to a surge of rage, his hands trembling as he fights to stay calm. Above, Padme, unaware of his mission, senses his absence and confides in Qui-Gon, her worry mirroring Anakin's own. The scene closes with Anakin emerging from the water, crystal in hand, but haunted by the vision of his darker self, unaware that the cloaked figure watches from the shadows, relaying his every move to a distant master. The tension builds as Anakin returns to the wellspring of life, where the Priestesses reveal the next phase of his training, a journey to Tatooine, his homeworld, to face his past. The announcement strikes Anakin like a blow, his heart racing with hope and dread. He longs to see Shmi, but fears what he might find: her suffering, or worse, her loss. The Priestesses, their forms shimmering like starlight, warn that Tatooine will test his ability to balance love and detachment, a lesson critical to his role as the Chosen One. As Anakin prepares to depart, Obi-Wan's investigation on Coruscant uncovers a chilling truth. The Sith have infiltrated the Republic's intelligence network, feeding information to Sidious about Anakin's movements. Obi-Wan sends a coded message to Qui-Gon, urging him to protect the boy, but the transmission is intercepted, setting a trap in motion. The stage is set for a collision of destinies, as Anakin's emotional struggle, Obi-Wan's pursuit, and the Sith's schemes converge toward a fateful reckoning. The sons of Tatooine beat down on Anakin Skywalker as he steps onto the scorching sands of his homeworld, the air thick with dust and memory. Mos Espa's ramshackle buildings loom like ghosts of his past, their shadows stretching across the dunes. At 10 years old, Anakin carries the kyber crystal from Naboo in a pouch at his side, its faint pulse a reminder of the Force Priestesses' teachings. The wellspring of life feels a galaxy away, its serene spires replaced by the harsh reality of slavery and survival. The Priestesses have sent him here to confront his love for his mother, Shmi, and to learn to wield his emotions without being consumed. Yet, as Anakin trudges toward the slave quarters, his heart races with a mix of hope and dread, each step stirring memories of chains and Watto's cruel laughter. The Force hums around him, alive with warnings, but Anakin's focus narrows to one thought: finding Shmi. In Mos Espa's cramped alleys, Anakin navigates familiar paths, his small frame slipping past merchants and swoop bikes. The Priestess's training has sharpened his senses, and he feels the weight of eyes upon him. Thieves, perhaps, or something darker. At Shmi's hovel, he finds the door ajar, the interior dim and silent. His breath catches as he steps inside, calling her name, but only echoes answer. A neighbor, a weathered Rhodian, reveals the truth. Shmi was sold months ago to a moisture farmer named Cliegg Lars, who lives beyond the Dune Sea. The news ignites a spark of anger in Anakin, his fists clenching as he imagines his mother's suffering. The kyber crystal pulses erratically, mirroring his turmoil, and he fights to heed Serentity's lessons of calm. Determined, Anakin barters for a land speeder and sets out across the desert, unaware that the cloaked figure from Naboo trails him, a comlink, relaying his movements to Darth Sidious. The journey to the Lars homestead is fraught with peril. A sandstorm sweeps across the dunes, forcing Anakin to shelter in a cave as the winds howl like banshees. Alone, he meditates. But the Force conjures visions of Shmi in chains, her voice pleading for help. Anger, the priestess, whispers in his mind, urging him to embrace his rage as strength, while sadness counters with the need for acceptance. The conflicting lessons tear at Anakin's resolve, and he lashes out, shattering a rock with a burst of Force energy. The crystal glows brighter, its light flickering between blue and red, a silent judge of his inner battle. As the storm clears, Anakin emerges, more determined but haunted by the fear that he is not ready for what lies ahead. The cloaked figure, hidden among the dunes, notes his display of power, a predatory glint in their eyes. Meanwhile, on Coruscant, Obi-Wan Kenobi's investigation deepens. The Jedi Knight, moving like a shadow through the city planet's underbelly. The holodisc from his encounter with the bounty hunter has revealed fragments of a Sith plot, pointing to a meeting in the works, Coruscant's industrial district. Obi-Wan infiltrates a derelict factory, its rusted spires clawing at the smog-choked sky. Inside, he overhears a conversation between a moon banker and a masked figure, Darth Maul, Sidious's apprentice, whose survival after Naboo is a chilling surprise. Maul speaks of the Chosen One, his voice dripping with malice, and the banker mentions a plan to destabilize the Republic by targeting Anakin. Obi-Wan's heart sinks as he realizes the Sith are closing in on the boy. A sudden alarm triggers a swarm of battle droids, and Obi-Wan ignites his blue lightsaber, deflecting blaster bolts as he fights his way out. The clash is brutal, sparks flying as he carves through metal, but Maul escapes, leaving Obi-Wan with a name: Felucia, the next stage of the Sith scheme. Back on Tatooine, Anakin reaches the Lars homestead, a modest dome nestled among vaporators. Cliegg Lars, a gruff but kind man, welcomes him, revealing that he freed and married Shmi. Anakin's relief is short-lived as he learns Shmi is missing, taken by Tusken Raiders days ago. The news shatters him, his vision blurring with tears and rage. The kyber crystal burns against his chest, its light now a deep crimson, and Anakin ignores Cliegg's pleas, sprinting into the desert to find her. His search leads to a Tusken camp, where he infiltrates under cover of night, his movements guided by the Force. He finds Shmi tied to a rack, her body bruised but alive. As he cuts her free, the Tuskens attack, their gaffy sticks swinging in the moonlight. Anakin fights with desperate precision, using the Force to push back his attackers, but his anger surges, nearly overwhelming him. Shmi's weak voice calls him back, and he carries her to safety, collapsing in the sand as she clings to him. The reunion is bittersweet, her survival a beacon of hope, but Anakin's heart aches with the realization that his emotions nearly led him to slaughter. The narrative shifts to Felucia, where the Sith's plan begins to unfold. The jungle planet's vibrant flora pulses with life, its towering mushrooms casting eerie shadows. Anakin, now accompanied by Shmi, travels here at the Priestesses' behest, their visions pointing to a disturbance in the Force. The journey is a test of Anakin's ability to protect those he loves while maintaining balance. And folks, that's our story. Felucia's humid air clings to his skin as he navigates its treacherous paths, Shmi by his side, her presence both a comfort and a vulnerability. The priestesses appear in fleeting visions, urging him to trust the Force. But Anakin's fear of losing Shmi again gnaws at him. Deep in the jungle, they stumble upon an ancient temple, its walls etched with glyphs of the Force. Inside, Anakin faces a trial orchestrated by the Priestesses, a spectral duel against a manifestation of his fear, a dark version of himself wielding a red lightsaber. The battle is fierce, Anakin's blue blade clashing against crimson, each strike testing his resolve to reject vengeance. Shmi watches, her faith in him unwavering, and her presence anchors him, allowing him to disarm the specter without succumbing to rage. As Anakin emerges victorious, the temple trembles, and Darth Maul steps from the shadows, his double-bladed lightsaber igniting with a hiss. The Sith apprentice has followed Anakin from Coruscant, sent by Sidious to test the boy's power. Maul's attack is relentless, his blades a whirlwind of red as he taunts Anakin, mocking his attachment to Shmi. Anakin fights to protect his mother, his movements a blend of priestess-taught fluidity and raw instinct. The jungle echoes with the clash of sabers, vines snapping as the duel spills into a clearing. Shmi, weak but defiant, distracts Maul with a thrown stone, giving Anakin an opening to force push the Sith into a chasm. Maul vanishes, but the encounter leaves Anakin shaken, his confidence in the priestess's path wavering. He senses a larger threat, one that threatens not just him, but the galaxy. Shmi, her strength fading, urges him to trust himself, her words a lifeline amid his doubt. On Coruscant, Obi-Wan reports to the Jedi Council, his face grim as he shares Maul's survival and the Sith's interest in Anakin. Yoda, his eyes heavy with concern, senses a darkness converging on the boy, while Mace Windu advocates for bringing Anakin to the temple for protection. Obi-Wan, torn between duty and loyalty to Qui-Gon's vision, volunteers to travel to Felucia, determined to shield Anakin from the Sith. As he prepares to depart, a coded message from Qui-Gon arrives, warning of a traitor within the Republic's ranks, someone feeding information to Sidious. The revelation tightens the noose around Anakin's destiny, as Obi-Wan boards a starship, his lightsaber at his side, racing against time to reach the boy before the Sith strike again. The stage is set for a collision of light and shadow, as Anakin's emotional journey, Shmi's fragile hope, and Obi-Wan's desperate pursuit converge toward a climactic reckoning. The galaxy trembles as Anakin Skywalker's destiny hurtles toward its reckoning. On the volcanic planet of Mustafar, rivers of lava carve glowing scars across the blackened landscape, their heat warping the air. Anakin, now 11, stands on a durasteel platform overlooking the molten flows, his mother Shmi at his side, her frail form supported by his arm. The Force priestesses have guided them here, their ethereal voices whispering of a final trial to prove Anakin's balance as the chosen one. The kyber crystal at his chest pulses erratically, its light shifting between blue and crimson, a mirror of his heart's turmoil. After Felucia, where Darth Maul's attack shook his faith, Anakin questions whether he can wield both light and dark without falling. Shmi's presence anchors him, but her weakening health, exacerbated by her ordeal with the Tuskens, casts a shadow over his resolve. Above, in the starry void, a greater threat looms, one that will test not just Anakin, but the fate of the Republic itself. On the surface of Mustafar, where the sisters appear in a shimmering circle, their figures glowing against the fire, they reveal the trial. Anakin must face Darth Sidious, whose shadow has stalked him since Naboo. The Sith Lord, masked as Chancellor Palpatine, has tracked Anakin to Mustafar, sensing the boy's power as a threat to his grand design. As the priestesses fade, a shuttle descends through the ash-choked sky, its ramp lowering to reveal Sidious, his crimson lightsaber igniting with a hiss. Anakin's blue blade flares to life, crafted from the kyber crystal, and he steps forward, shielding Shmi. The duel erupts with ferocious intensity, Sidious's strikes a blur of precision and malice, each swing laced with taunts about Anakin's fear of loss. Anakin parries with the priestess's fluid techniques, his movements a dance of light and shadow, but Sidious's power is overwhelming, his lightning crackling across the platform. Shmi, desperate to help, throws a shard of obsidian, momentarily distracting the Sith, but Sidious retaliates, hurling her into a durasteel beam with a wave of his hand. She collapses, blood trickling from her temple, and Anakin's scream echoes over the lava. Rage surges within Anakin, the kyber crystal glowing a deep red, but Serentity's voice pierces his mind, urging him to channel his anger into purpose. He fights back, his blade clashing against Sidious's in a shower of sparks, each strike fueled by love for Shmi rather than hatred. The platform buckles under the strain, lava licking at its edges, and Anakin uses the Force to hurl molten rocks at Sidious, forcing the Sith to retreat across a narrow bridge. The duel spills into a mining facility, its corridors lined with humming machinery. Sidious unleashes a torrent of lightning, scorching Anakin's arm, but the boy presses forward, his resolve unbroken. In a moment of clarity, Anakin disarms Sidious, sending the crimson saber skittering into the lava below. Sidious laughs, his voice chilling, and reveals a second blade, slashing at Anakin's leg. The boy stumbles, pain searing through him, but Shmi's faint cry pulls him back. With a final burst of strength, Anakin drives his saber through Sidious's chest, the Sith Lord's body crumpling as the dark side recoils. The facility shakes, alarms blaring, and Anakin limps to Shmi, cradling her as the lava rises. The action surges into space above Coruscant, where Obi-Wan Kenobi's subplot converges with Anakin's trial. Obi-Wan, having traced the Sith's movements from Felucia, pilots a Jedi starfighter through a chaotic battle in the planet's orbit. Darth Maul, revealed as Sidious's enforcer, has unleashed a separatist fleet to distract the Republic while Sidious confronts Anakin. Republic cruisers led by Admiral Yularen exchange volleys with droid ships, turbo lasers painting the void with green and red. Obi-Wan weaves through the chaos, his ship dodging vulture droids as he pursues Maul's sleek fighter. The chase is relentless, Obi-Wan's blue lightsaber igniting briefly to deflect debris in a breached hangar. Maul's taunts crackle over the comm, mocking Obi-Wan's failure to protect Qui-Gon, but the Jedi remains focused, sensing Anakin's peril through the Force. In a daring maneuver, Obi-Wan rams Maul's ship, forcing it into a spin, and boards it in zero gravity, their sabers clashing in the cockpit's confines. The duel is brutal, Maul's double-bladed saber a whirlwind, but Obi-Wan's precision prevails, severing Maul's arm and sending him plummeting into the ship's wreckage. As the Separatist fleet retreats, Obi-Wan races to Mustafar, his heart heavy with dread. A sudden turn of events occurs when Anakin, carrying Shmi out of the collapsing facility, encounters a new figure. Qui-Gon, who faked his death on Naboo to guide Anakin from the darkness, emerges from the glow of the lava, his presence a beacon of hope. He reveals that the sisters spared him to ensure Anakin's path, a secret kept even from Obi-Wan. Qui-Gon helps Anakin stabilize Shmi, but her injuries are severe, her breathing shallow. The reunion is brief, as Qui-Gon senses the facility's impending destruction and urges Anakin to escape. Anakin, torn between saving Shmi and fulfilling his destiny, refuses to leave her. In a heartbreaking moment, Shmi whispers her love, urging him to live for the galaxy, not just for her. With tears in his eyes, Anakin carries her to Qui-Gon's shuttle, but as they take off, Shmi's hand slips from his, her life fading into the Force. The loss is a stab to Anakin's heart, but Qui-Gon's steady hand on his shoulder keeps him from shattering, the kyber crystal now glowing a steady blue. He reveals that the Priestesses spared him to ensure Anakin's path, a secret kept even from Obi-Wan. Qui-Gon helps Anakin stabilize Shmi, but her injuries are grave, her breathing shallow. The reunion is fleeting, as Qui-Gon senses the facility's imminent destruction and urges Anakin to escape. Anakin, torn between saving Shmi and fulfilling his destiny, refuses to leave her. In a heart-wrenching moment, Shmi whispers her love, urging him to live for the galaxy, not just for her. With tears streaming, Anakin carries her to Qui-Gon's shuttle, but as they lift off, Shmi's hand slips from his, her life fading into the Force. The loss is a knife to Anakin's heart, but Qui-Gon's steady hand on his shoulder keeps him from breaking, the kyber crystal now glowing a steady blue. The resolution unfolds on Coruscant, the city-planet's spires gleaming under a dawn sky. Anakin, now 12, stands before the Jedi Council, his young face marked by grief, but also resolve. Obi-Wan, having arrived too late to save Shmi, stands beside him, his own heart heavy with guilt. The Council, shaken by Sidious's exposure as Palpatine, grapples with the Republic's fragility. Yoda, his eyes soft with sorrow, acknowledges Anakin's role in defeating the Sith, while Mace Windu questions the Priestesses' methods. Anakin speaks, his voice steady, sharing the Priestesses' teachings. The Force thrives in balance, not suppression, and the Jedi must embrace emotion to truly serve. His words, born of loss and triumph, spark a reformation. The Council, led by Plo Koon and a newly appointed Obi-Wan, begins to integrate the Priestesses' wisdom, training Jedi to guide their emotions rather than deny them. Anakin, though scarred by Shmi's death, finds purpose as a symbol of this new era, his training continuing under Qui-Gon's guidance. Obi-Wan discovers a traitor within the Republic, Masameda, Palpatine's lieutenant who has been feeding information to the Sith. Ameda's capture, orchestrated by Bail Organa and Mon Mothma, exposes a web of corruption, prompting the Senate to limit executive power. Padme Amidala, now a senator, works with Organa to draft peace treaties with the separatist worlds, her bond with Anakin deepening as they mourn Shmi together. The galaxy, though wounded, begins to heal, with the Jedi as guardians of a fragile peace. A touch of nostalgia emerges as R2-D2, once Anakin's companion on Tatooine, rolls into the temple, its beeping a reminder of simpler days. Anakin kneels beside the droid, a faint smile breaking through his grief, connecting his past to his future. The Republic, under Chancellor Organa, strengthens planetary representation, while the Separatists, led by moderates like Mina Bonteri, negotiate integration rather than war. The Jedi, no longer bound to Senate whims, establish outposts on worlds like Alderaan and Kashyyyk, training a new generation that includes Ahsoka Tano, who joins Anakin as a student of the balanced Force. Yet, the tragedy lingers. Shmi's sacrifice, Qui-Gon's hidden survival, and Anakin's brush with darkness leave scars that will shape his path. The Force flows freely, its currents no longer clouded by Sith machinations, and the galaxy breathes anew, its hope tempered by the cost of victory. Writing this was a journey through the heart of Star Wars, blending the cosmic mysticism of the Force priestesses with the raw emotion of Anakin's youth. I drew inspiration from the Clone Wars Yoda arc, where the priestesses first appeared, and Rebels, focus on balance, wanting to explore how Anakin might grow without Palpatine's shadow. The loss of Shmi hurt to write, but it felt true to the saga's blend of sacrifice and redemption. I hope you felt the weight of Anakin's choices and the hope of a reformed galaxy. Let me know what you think, what worked, what didn't, or what Star Wars what if you'd love to see next. Thanks for reading, and I'll catch you in the next story.